Welcome to the Strategy with Jason podcast. Tune in for everything you need to know to stay in the know regarding the automotive industry. Here's your host, Jason Harris.
Hey, what's going on, Podcast Nation? It is Jason Harris here, and thank you for joining me on another episode of The Drive, Las Vegas edition. Today I have a very special guest with me. I have the one, the only, the oh-so-famous. There's Don Brady in the house. Don, what's up, brother? How you doing?
What's up, sir? Good to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
We're going to have some fun, man. We are. Hey, Don, I like to start off these podcasts with origin stories because I'm always super curious to find out how people got started in the industry. So what is the Don Brady origin story of how you got started in the automotive industry?
Well, I actually was in the U.S. Army for 10 years, and I decided to ETS and make a career change, and I was in the law enforcement world for a short time, and with those you get on a very long list. So I ended up applying at a car dealership as a salesperson, and 22 years later I was a general manager in the car industry, loving every second of it, but also takes a lot of your life away a little bit.
It just sucked you in, huh?
Yep, and I loved it. I mean, I loved mentoring, I loved the closing of the deals, I loved the customers and obviously the salespeople. But I decided to make a change and kind of go off on my own, and I ended up in the kind of a similar industry, and that is the transportation industry. So I'm still in the car business, but I'm not in the car business.
Well, you're the backbone of the car business.
Yes, sir.
Like, dude, we can't sell them unless you move them.
That's correct.
You know, which I actually think, I gotta be honest with you, like, I talk a lot of different topics, right? And this is just one topic I don't get to talk about often.
Okay.
But really, when you really think about it, like, it's an important topic. Like, I can't sell them unless you move them. Like,
Right.
It's kind of a big deal.
Yep.
So how long have you been doing the transportation thing?
So I'm just under 2 years. So I started in March of 2020, right at the start of the pandemic in the U.S., and which is probably not the best timing, but in a way it was the best timing.
Sure.
Because I was able to help dealers move anywhere from one vehicle to truckloads of vehicles, and I can move them anywhere from or anywhere to anywhere in the U.S. So.
Well, when it comes to like moving inventory, I mean, it couldn't be more important now ever, just because the inventory shortage. So you did kind of get into a good time, right?
Yeah.
And I think that there are some definite strategies behind, you know, moving inventory and having a shortage. Because, like, look, if you can't get it, either you send them 1,000 miles away to get it, or you bring it in. You know, what are some of the best practices you've seen out there people doing right now?
Well, you know, and everybody's talking about inventory. I've got dealers though they're cherry picking used pre-owned vehicles from across the nation and bringing it right to their dealership. And then, you know, the whole competition with Carvana and Vroom, that's always seems to be a buzzword in the industry. Well, I tell car dealers all the time, you can actually, it's not even about competing with Carvana, but you can actually ship cars from the dealership to the customer's driveway, white glove service anywhere, and I can do open or enclosed, so I can literally help them, and I am helping them all over the country.
That is cool. And, you know, that really just kind of enhances that customer experience too.
It does.
You know, I think when people think of vehicle shipping, they don't think as it being a part of a customer experience. But with the lack of inventory going on, we are shipping on a very regular basis. We are shipping cars all across the country, you know? So, like, kind of lay it out for me a little bit. Like, what is that experience like when you roll up and customers picking up their new car? Well,
and that's kind of what I also tell dealers. Because I was in the business for 22 years, I know all about customer satisfaction scores. And not every transportation company has an actual car guy that truly knows what that means. But literally, like, we pick up the vehicle, we take it right to their door, and offload it right in front of the customer. So they get to, a lot of the paperwork is done over the internet or over fax, and then.
Do you handle some of that? Like, if you're in a state that requires like a wet signature, can you guys handle that?
We actually have all that. We can handle all that too.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Well, that's a big deal. I mean, come on, I think about it. Like, if I order a vehicle and it comes directly to me, and it's just like, you know, the people I work with to be able to execute on a strategy like that, it's pretty big. That's a big deal, and it's cool that you're able to help dealerships execute on that strategy, right?
Yes.
Because I think everybody wants to do it.
Yep.
But the logistics of even putting in a strategy, I don't even know where the hell I'd even start.
Well, and obviously digital retailing is another thing you keep hearing,
Yep.
e-commerce and digital retailing. I actually can help with I feel like the most important part because I'm in the transportation world, but we actually offer car dealers our technology at no cost to them. So I can literally put a shipping button on every vehicle on their website. So if a customer is shopping from out of state, they can literally look at the car, they can get an instant shipping quote by pushing a button, and it gives them choices just like Amazon. You want it picked up in 7 days, you want it picked up in 2 days, I can do it. We actually have a button they can push for that.
So that's cool. So you help the dealerships put a button on there so it just says like ship it to me.
Yes.
And you're able to collect the information that you need so you can obviously put the quote together.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Shipping a car 100 miles is a lot different than shipping a car 1,000 miles.
Yep.
You know, that is super cool. I love digital retailing. But I think what dealers have to understand is that digital retailing is it's more of a process than it is a marketing tool.
Correct.
And I hate to say it, but I think as an industry, we're focusing too much on the lead generation side of it when that's not really what it is. It's you have a process and the technology supports that process.
Right.
You know.
And I guess my thinking with that is not every customer wants to buy a car that way.
No.
So so you don't want to cater your whole process to that, but it is a reality that the website is in most cases your showroom now. So you can't lose sight of that, but at the same time, there's still going to be a large percentage of people that still are okay with coming into your showroom, sitting down with a salesperson, going through a needs assessment, going out and test driving a car, finding the one they want, and going through the whole process. That's still going to happen.
Well, some are still going to want it. I mean, I think about like when I bought my first car, it was like a 6-hour purchase, but I wanted it to be like that because it was a big deal.
Yes,
you know?
it is, and it's still the second biggest purchase that we make. And the only difference is you make it a lot more than you do a house in most cases. You buy a lot of vehicles. But my point is, and I've been to some dealers in the country that I'll walk in and they'll say, nope, we don't sell to anybody out of state, and that's okay. I mean, if that's the philosophy of your store, that's okay. But the reality is, it's real hard for me when I was a GM to hear or even to think about saying to a customer, no thanks, we don't want your business because you're out of state. So, and I think another thing that's not a good thing to say is, if you want to do that, that's fine, but you're on your own for transportation. We offer a solution for that.
One of my first big jobs in the business, I was the internet director for a GM group, right? And back then, that was kind of like, it was a very loose used term for what my job was. It was pretty much anything to do with these internet people, which also included the BDC for some reason as well. So I kind of looked over all of it. And
nice.
And you know what? When we started doing this, there were no guidebooks or rule books. So, I remember talking to, the owners at the time and saying, hey, look, I'm going to do this Google AdWords thing. And I'm going to start marketing, the deals that we have like all across the country, and we're going to start shipping these cars. And they looked at me and go, yeah, sweet, and but back then there weren't PMAs, and Google was still very early on in its ad product. And I mean, I was running ads for using the keyword just Corvette for the entire western part of the United States for like 17, 18, 19 cents a click.
Yep.
And it got so crazy that, our BDC, like we had 2 F9 managers that worked in our BDC. All right. We did have a delivery specialist, which pretty much just dealt with the shipping companies all the time.
Yep.
And this was mid 2000s, and we were drop shipping Corvettes to Dubai, sending dualies to Alaska, it was just the wild, wild west. GM didn't care back then. You were on there punching numbers. They didn't care where you were selling these things to, right?
Yep.
And just the logistics side alone is like I do remember having to find several different partners because it's a big deal.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember we shipped this yellow special edition Corvette. It was very, very rare, very special. I don't know. I don't really care about Corvettes.
Yeah.
And we shipped it to this guy in Montana. And we used this company. It was a total disaster. A total disaster, right?
Yeah.
And the funny thing is, it wasn't necessarily the shipping company that got blamed for it. It was, of course, us as the dealer, because that's the company that we hired. Like, it's a big deal to find a company that you can actually, trust and rely on.
Right. Well, that's what I love. My company's ShipYourCarNow. they've been doing POVs for about 12 years. So they were really, really good in the space of moving grandma's vehicle from Michigan down to Florida and really all over the U.S. So, and out of the U.S. Right now I'm in the process of moving a car from Canada to Florida. So, I mean, I literally can move anywhere in the world, not just the country. But because they got so good at that, moving them single units, when the pandemic hit, it just really kind of, it brought the conversation to the forefront. So, now all of a sudden dealers, okay, we have customers that want to buy these vehicles. And then as the inventory thinned out, you mentioned that specialty Corvette being moved. Now, literally, people are buying a Camry from across the United States and bringing it to their house because that's how short of supply there is out there. So, again, I love what I'm doing and I love helping car dealers. And I think they're finding that they know that I'm there for them. I'm on their side.
Well, it's because you have an operational understanding of what they're going through, right?
Yes.
And that makes a world of difference. I'm curious. You've been in the business for a while. You've seen how the industry's kind of ebbed and flow and kind of back and forth. And I'd just kind of like to get your just kind of overall general take on the last 20 months.
Well, besides the fact that we as humans have went through a pretty tough period here. In the car industry, we're a very, 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 very resilient people. I mean, I love car guys. I love car gals. We are, I think, the most resilient people out there. So we basically rolled with the punches. I mean, and in the midst of all that, we've got the chip shortage. In the midst of all that, we've got inventory. There's a lot of car dealers that are making a lot of money right now because the shopping, it's being harder now to shop for a car. That's the car we have, that's our price. And sometimes that can hurt you and make you weak when that happens. For sure. Because it's not always going to be this way. I mean, there's discussion about is it going to clear up this year, or is it next year, or the year after? Regardless of when it's going to all come back to normal, for lack of a better word. We still have to be prepared for the next step. And I think we've seen, and Carvana, if anything Carvana and Vroom have done, is they have proven that there are people out there that will buy a vehicle sight unseen, and they will have it dropped off at their home or work.
Yes.
It's and I don't want to, as a car dealer, I would never want to say, nope, I don't want to sell to those people. I don't want to be that guy. I want to be able to sell to all of them and be prepared. So you still got to, hone the skills of the sales team on the floor when the people walk through the front door, and you got to hone the skills of the people on the internet team, like you mentioned. 100%.
So. What is your kind of overall just thought and opinion on Carvana and Vroom?
Well, okay.
I mean, I know there's no wrong or right. I'm just curious.
Okay, so Carvana, I'm okay with Carvana. I'm okay with both of them. I mean, it's a business strategy, right? My personal opinion about Vroom is I really don't like their commercials. I don't like that they're bashing the livelihood of in an industry that I love. Like, is there bad car salespeople out there? Have there been in the past?
Sure,
possibly, and most likely. But not all of them are that way. So when they broadcast that on a commercial during the Super Bowl, I was a little frustrated with Vroom, and that's my only take on Vroom. But Carvana's, and then the funny thing is, they're always hiring, and you know who they're hiring? Car people from our industry. These are the same car salespeople and finance managers and managers that were in a brick and mortar car dealership.
I think what they did with that commercial was absolutely genius, and I honestly think as an industry we needed a little punch in the face.
Well, we got one.
Because a lot of people go, well, that's not the way it is. That's not the way it is. That's not the way it is. Okay, well, you haven't shown anything differently.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, so then, because that's my marketing brain kicking in, because I'm like, you know what? Don't complain and bitch about it.
Right.
All right. If
do something about it.
Do something about it. Right.
Yeah, I agree.
Like don't just that is, for a good chunk of people out there, that is the perception of what the car buying process is. Like, it's perception. It's not truth. Right. That is a good percentage of people's perception of what it's like to buy a car.
Yep.
Yep. And Vroom, they poked a little fun at it. And if you don't like it, then go do something about changing the perception of it. When you're spending, $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 a month marketing nothing but a payment and a finance interest rate, okay, and you're not talking about the experience, then I don't really want to hear you bitch about it.
Well, and there's still dealers, and there are still dealers that I've kind of chuckled as I walked out of them that literally I've been told by some dealers that the internet's going to go away. It's just a fad, right? The Carvanas in the rooms, they're not making any money.
Give me their names and numbers.
Yeah, they're not making any money. They're losing money. They're going to go under, and whether that may or may not be true, the more, and I always hate to say this, but the more progressive thinking dealers are doing the right things. You a few weeks back, you interviewed Mike Cavanaugh.
Yeah,
and honestly, guy. Lithia Driveway, I was excited when I saw that because, in fact, the first thing I said to Mike Cavanaugh when he told me what he was about to do, I said, wow, a big group that is actually they're basically building a Carvana-like thing. And the cool thing is, ShipYourCarNow is helping them move their vehicles. And I love that too. So
good plug, by the way.
Yeah. Well, Mike's a good guy. Mike's a good guy.
Mike's a great guy.
Yeah.
Excuse me. I would love to see, I love to see the embracement of what Vroom and Carvana does, in the sense that they don't have a buying process. See, as an industry, we have a buying process. We have 12 steps that need to be accomplished, all right, for you to buy a car from us, right?
Yep.
So it's like, here's how you can buy a car from me. Follow step 1 through 12.
Yeah.
And I don't think what dealers realize, what Carvanas and the Vrooms of the world bring to it, is that it's a purchase process.
Correct.
Not a buying process.
Correct.
But I'd love to get your thoughts.
Well, I think that they obviously did a lot of research and really listened to what buyers out there wanted to see, and I think that that's kind of what they're doing. Now, they are going through growing pains, and if you read some of the press, they're having some issues with titling. They're having some issues, selling cars before they actually got the title. And these are all growing pains that the brick and mortar dealers, we had those too. Those things happen at times. Now, it's when you're dealing with out of state, you got to be prepared for that because every state has different laws and different things.
Yep.
So, I think it's a lot of the growing pains. And again, not every customer wants to do it the Carvana way either, or the Vroom way. So, it's
But I think what they bring is they bring a purchasing solution.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. And the people like it. The people that do it love it.
Well, we can do this, don't you think?
Yes, absolutely. And again, the progressive thinking dealers are doing it.
Yeah.
And it's, we live in a world that convenience is important, speed is important. Spending 4 or 5 hours in a car dealership, you've heard the customers say it's like getting a root canal, buying a car. As I grew up in the car industry, I wanted to be different. I wanted to not be that that scum at the bottom of the ocean. That you hear all those things, right? And I felt like I was a pretty different type of salesperson, and my customers, I think, with all the repeats and referrals, I think I did a decent job for them, right? And every dealership, no dealership sets out to be a bad place for people to buy a car. That's not their goal.
I don't think they do.
So I think it's important to be progressive thinking. I think it's important that they, that they do embrace the new technologies. And there's a lot of, what I offer, my transportation solution is, I always hate to use the word free. It's at no cost to a dealer because I'm trying to help them, and I can help them in so many different ways.
Yep.
So, and that's what I've accomplished now for almost 2 years. I love it.
See, I love the fact you've been in the industry and you've been on both sides of kind of the table when it comes to vendor and dealer and stuff like that. And I always like asking this question to people that have been in the industry for a long time. What kind of advice would you give to, new people that are considering getting into the industry?
Well, again, it's a different world. So, pay plans are always that concern. The straight commission's always been a scary thing. So a lot of dealerships are modifying that. But what I've always said to every salesperson that I've ever interviewed, you need to be yourself.
Yeah.
And you need to go to work. And I'm not trying to steal a Joe Verdi line, but the reality is there are salespeople that will sit at a dealership and sell 4 cars in a month, which is mind-boggling because that's a car a week. What are you doing with the rest of your time?
Yeah.
I wanted my sales team. I was progressive and old school at the same time. I thought, when you get a lead, as they like to say, I like to say a buyer, you need to. I always wanted them to send a handwritten postcard or letter, snail mail, the old-fashioned way. I wanted them to do a personal video introducing themselves so that customer on the other side sees, hey, that's my guy. You know, it's and that's his name, and he actually said my name when he sent me a personal video.
Yep.
It doesn't have to be a big walk around of the car, just an introduction, right? With maybe the car is behind you. And then send them a personal text message, send them a personal email. And I used to hate templates because I still caught salespeople that sent an email to a customer that said, "Dear, insert name here."
Oh no!
So I was never a fan of. I literally, when I wrote a letter or a postcard, you could smear the ink. When I sent up email, it was a fresh written email to that person. And then now, I mean, I'd look them up on social media. I'd know a little more
Why
about
not,
them.
right? Okay, so that'd be my next question. So, you know, what advice would you give to someone who's looking to get into business and get into the business? What should they look for in a dealership?
Well, I think, I mean, and I don't like to use the word motorhead, but you don't have to know everything about a car, right?
Sure.
It's more important to know more about people. So I would say, one, you should find a car dealership with vehicles that you do like or believe in, right? Yeah. And now, of course, as a pre-owned, I mean, I could sell anything. I mean, I could sell any car because I actually love cars. Like every car, I could find good in every car. But you got to find a vehicle. You got to believe in your product, and if you do, the passion and the compassion will come out.
Yeah.
If you believe in that product, and then I would look at the reviews of the dealer. I would look at, you know, how many salespeople. You know, are you limited? Are you able to sell new and pre-owned? Are you? How's their training? How's their ongoing training?
Yes. Do they make sure they have an actual training program and get the full details of
yes,
it?
because
Here's the brochure. There's the keys. Go have fun.
There are still dealers that do not. I don't want to say they don't believe in training, but they don't believe
invest in it.
Spending the money for the training. And I mean, and again, I cared about my team. I wanted to see all of them succeed. We were closed on Sundays, and there were Sundays that I was in there with my newbies, and I was training them on Sundays. You know, from the needs assessment, which I feel like out of everything that I would ever teach, the needs assessment and rapport building is the most important thing. And then as long as the customers know that you are a newbie, and you fall down, they're going to pick you up. The customer. Never lie to them. Never pressure them. And answer, and then always get your manager to come in and do a TO. I mean, I think, and if your managers don't, and that's the other thing, if the managers don't TO, if I walked into a store and the managers won't come off the desk and go talk to the customers,
don't work.
As a GM, that manager is not going to have a very long life expectancy at that dealership.
100%, man. Totally.
Everyone needs to get off the desk, and sometimes, I mean, I used to go in and TO for my finance managers that didn't get the warranty. Yeah. I'd go in and I'd sign off as the GM and say, look, I took one more shot because I believe everyone needs a warranty. Yep. I believe everyone needs gap insurance unless you're putting a bunch of money down. Like, I mean, but I was pretty passionate about what I do, and I still am. I love what I do. So you can't tell.
I know, you truly do. No, you really do, Don. Hey, Don, I know we're getting towards the tail end of our conversation, but for everybody out there that's watching and listening, and would like to connect with you, maybe even continue some of the talking points in our conversation today, what's the best way to connect with you?
Well, I would say just call my personal cell phone. It's 330-581-5247. And I always say text, because text first. That way I can, if I'm on another call, I'll call you right back. But I'm here for them. So
that's awesome, man. Hey, Don, thank you so much.
Thank you. This has been fun.
This has been a lot of fun. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, me too. Enjoy the rest of your time in Vegas.
Thanks, man.